There is no bigger fan of Gavin Newsom than Bill Maher. He loves the guy. Bill, snap out of it. And he had Gavin Newsom on his show on Friday night. Couple of sound bites making the rounds, including this one on the trans issue.
All right, guys, the left is at it again, and they're looking desperate. Gavin Newsom, yep, Mr. Lockdown King of California, is suddenly trying to rebrand himself as this reasonable, centered, common sense Democrat. And where does he kick off his little image rehab tour? Bill Maher's show, of course. It's laughable, but I'll admit watching him try is pretty entertaining. Let's get into it.
A lot of people lately talking about this 80-20 issue, and I think you are on the other side of this now, the side with the 80. 80 being 80% of the people in this country. Again, this is the issue of should biologically born men be able to compete in women's sports?
That's tough.
And, I saw the polling here in California. They think you're a traitor for saying this.
Yeah.
When those kind of people call you a traitor, there's a word for that, electable. If the Democrats can't get with 80, how are they going to do something when it's a 51-49?
No, I get it. And the other side weaponizes these issues. They dehumanize, they attack, they demean, and they've weaponized this issue extraordinarily well. That said, on the fundamental question, is it fair? And I can give you example after example. Just in my home state, there was someone that won a triple jump by 8 feet.
Right.
It was fundamentally unfair. We haven't been able to figure that out.
You see, the right has weaponized. One might even say they pounced, Emily, on this issue.
I mean, yeah, of course. It was the right who was just so excited to talk about bathrooms and locker rooms. They just couldn't resist it, couldn't wait. It wasn't the Obama administration that had a Dear Colleague letter that wasn't even going through the proper legislative process and suddenly transformed how every school around the country had to use their bathrooms and locker rooms and do sports. No. It was absolutely the right who just couldn't wait to make an issue out of transgender kids. I mean, this is why Gavin Newsom, I think, is having a hard time on his rehabilitation tour as he's launched his podcast. And it's because he's it's impossible for him to run from his actual record because he can't fully disavow it. He can't fully get away from it. It's like how he said, nobody in our office ever used Latinx. And then a million clips were produced of Gavin Newsom himself, let alone his office, saying the word Latinx. He can't fully divorce himself from the last 10 years of politics.
So he tried to tell Charlie Kirk, nobody in my office has ever used that term Latinx.
It's crazy. Right out of the gate, the very first question Bill Maher hits Gavin Newsom with is the trans issue, specifically biological men competing in women's sports. Maher says it flat out, 80% of Americans are against it. That's not partisan, that's common sense. And what Gavin's response? Victim blaming. He says the right is weaponizing the issue. Really? It wasn't the right who made this an issue. It was the Democrats. They're the ones who pushed radical school policies. They're the ones who told teachers not to tell parents. They're the ones who backed boys and girls' locker rooms and called anyone who objected a bigot. And now Gavin wants to act like he's being attacked for doing the right thing. Oh, so now standing with 80% of the country is brave? You're a hero because you think it's totally fine for a biological male to dominate girls in high school sports? Are you serious? That doesn't make you electable. That makes you delusional. These people are nuts. And the fact that this is the moderate face of the Democrat Party in 2028, God help us.
I like Tapper. He's a friend of mine, but I know our audience not huge fans. Here's what he found put together after Newsom was out there claiming never.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
That's so fun. Gavin, a simple Google search about yourself will serve you well before you make these sweeping claims. But on the same dishonest, disingenuous front, he tried to act like he's the reasonable one on the trans and the children issue, Eliana, which is a lie. His state is as radical as they come. Only Minnesota under Tim Walz is more radical, which to his credit, because Bill Maher is on the right side on this issue, meaning correct side, he did raise with Gavin Newsom, who then wiggled and wormed, and which was typical in the interview, did not accept any responsibility. Here it is in Side 18.
But Governor, you were the poster boy for a lot of this stuff. California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. It makes a lot of people go, well, you know what? That's the party without common sense. Now, if that's your state, how are you?
I just disagree with that. I mean, the law was you would be fired. A teacher would be fired if a teacher did not report or snitch on a kid talking about their gender identity. I just think that was wrong. I think teachers should teach. I don't think they should be required to turn in kids. And by the way,
we're talking about their parents. How can you snitch? The idea of a snitch and a parent to me doesn't compute.
Well, I don't. But what is the job of a teacher? It's to teach. If Johnny's talking about some identity issue or some issue about liking someone of the same sex, is the teacher's job to then report that? By the way, in this law, the teacher can still do that, but they can't be fired if that's it can't be fired if that's not what they do. And that's something I think I just think that was fair.
He sits there with a stone cold face and tells Bill Maher, nobody in my office ever used the term Latinx. And then what happens? Clip after clip of him personally using the word Latinx. That's crazy. This is the guy Democrats want to parade around as a truth teller. Please. Then he gets hit with the parental rights bombshell. And it gets even worse. California law allowed schools to hide gender transitions from parents. Teachers weren't even allowed to speak up if a child was going through a major identity shift. And Gavin, he defends it by calling it snitching. Snitching on parents. Snitching when is a parent the enemy of their own child. This is why Democrats keep losing, because they toss out basic values, push radical social experiments, and then try to guilt you into silence by calling it tolerance. They think they know better than you how to raise your kids. They think transgender ideology should be normalized in classrooms without your consent. And they dare you to speak out against it. Now, to Maher's credit, he actually presses him on it. But Gavin still dodges, deflects, and dances around the issue like a trained politician with zero backbone. This guy has no spine. He's just another smooth-talking elitist trying to play both sides.
God bless Bill Maher for trying, Eliana. I genuinely appreciate him with the retort of how can you snitch to one's parents when you're talking about a minor and very serious mental problems.
I agree with all of that. However, I hate to say, I do think that this podcast thing that Newsom is doing is pretty smart if he wants to run for president in 2028.
No, it is smart.
It appears he is laser focused on that, and Maher actually introduced him as, he's running for president too. Because he's like, look, you said he's worse except for Tim Walz. Well, he's doing better than like the vast majority than the Democratic Party, which is switching his position. So he's like, far ahead of all of them. And so the question really is, like, are people going to hold it against him that he's switched all of his positions? I'm not sure if that's really going to matter 4 years from now. There's going to be lots of embarrassing video, but that's sort of the question that's hanging in my mind is how much will that dog him? But he's doing better than the rest of his party mates.
I said this on the Times interview as well. He is smart to start this. And the reason he's smart to start it is because he has no muscles, Emily. None. He's a sinewy little weakling when it comes to arguing any of these issues, especially cultural issues, because he, like all liberals, has never had to do it. So now he's trying to get his training, which is smart on his part, and it would be smart on the part of conservatives to say no, because they declined to help him get in shape before the big bout. We're supposed to be helping Rocky, not Drago.
Let's not kid ourselves. Gavin Newsom is absolutely running for president in 2028. But instead of telling people what he actually believes, he's out here trying to rebrand, acting like he's got common sense, like he's a moderate now. He will never admit he was wrong. He'll never say why he supported transgender ideology. He won't explain why he pushed radical school policies or use terms like Latinx, because he can't. If he owns it, he loses the moderates. If he denies it, he loses the base. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Do you think Newsom actually believes anything he's saying? Or is this just phase 1 of his 2028 run?